So this is my take 2. You're going to have a Beetles worksheet for this line and shape lesson. This is a must-do assignment. You have a worksheet that has 2 sides. There are 3 beetles or half beetles on each side. Your job is to draw the other half of 3 beetles. So that's what you need to do for this must-do assignment. Not 1 beetle, not 2 beetles, not all 6 beetles, but 3 beetles. I recommend you stick to one side, but you don't have to. So you could choose whichever 3 beetles you want to draw. I'm going to go through the act of showing you how to use construction lines, right? Planning lines, edges, shape, positive space, negative space, all those fun things that you've been learning about, as well as shading lines to finish one beetle. The first thing we want to do is talk about scale and proportion. And we want to do that because we want to make sure that this beetle that we draw, the other half of this beetle, fills this space in the same way. And we're going to be using the negative space of the white rectangle that's around the beetle, as well as the positive shapes of the beetle in order to create the second half of this beetle. We are going to make construction lines to show where certain things have to happen. So for example, the top of this beetle's head, I can make a construction line that comes out like that. The middle of this beetle's that's not like the middle of the body, but kind of the end of the thorax, which is right here, the end of the beetle's bottom edge here. There's another part here that goes here. This is where this kind of points downward, a little lower. This is the actual end of this part of its body, its little shell, right? We can also make construction lines that come out here. That's where the leg ends, where the leg begins, where this leg ends, where this leg begins, where this leg ends, where this leg begins, where the antennae ends, right? Where this antennae ends. So these are my construction lines. I know they're light, but you can see them, right? They're there. So these are my construction lines to just help me. I can also go where this foot ends up here. Yeah, it's a good one. And where this little footy ends here, and where this little footy ends over here somewhere, right? So all of these construction lines help us to determine where things begin and end in relationship to this beetle. We also need to know how wide our beetle is at any given point. So we can do that through measurements as well. We can go, well, this part of the beetle, if I extend it up, it comes over to here. This is our halfway point. I can come to like here and just kind of guess that this is where that part of the beetle needs to end. This is right here. So I can draw a construction line there. I can come up from here and know that just a little ways over from this line, right? Right here's this line where this part of the beetle ends. Right here's where this part of the widest part of this segment of the body ends. I can come down here and draw that down and connect it with this part because that is where the leg begins. That's also the widest part of that part of the body. Notice I haven't drawn anything at all to do with the beetle except for where the proportions of this beetle need to be, right? This part of the body is a little bit away from this part, so I can just come down and kind of gauge that. I don't need to get a ruler or anything crazy. I just need to try to match up the distance between these lines and these lines. I feel like I dug in a little bit, so I'm going to come out just a little ways with that. I feel like I kind of drifted inward as I was talking. So this is how I start. These are my construction lines. I'm not building my beetle all the way yet. I'm just showing you where things go, right? So from here, that's where the end of this leg needs to go, right? Because there's this much space right here between the outside of my rectangle and the outside of this leg. So from the outside of this half of the rectangle and the outside of the leg, it needs to be equal because we figure that they are symmetrical, right? They are perfectly symmetrical, pretty much, right? So then I can come in and I can start doing some of the drawing of the shapes here in a little bit, but I'm just going to go down and notice that this part of my beetle, if I drew it like a little bit more of a box around him, it definitely tapers. So I can come in here, this is my halfway point, that's where the beetle ends. Come over about this far, that's about equal, yeah? If you're not sure, you can measure using your pencil to figure out if it's about equal, right? And I can come up like this, and I can understand now that this part of the beetle comes down, comes over, and I can draw this negative shape right here to aid in drawing this half of my beetle, and come up and make it match what I did here. Right? I don't have to start at the head of the beetle. I could draw this line all the way down here, and it's pretty level. So I can just use this line to come down and join that part. And this is where this starts to curve up. We can use this negative space right here to draw this part of our beetle and come up with that bottom part of its leg. So I'm not worrying about all these different shapes just yet. I'm just worried about all these little negative spaces that I'm able to create with my planning lines, my construction lines. So I come up, and then this comes in like this, and then remember this line here is this line, comes up like this. Pretty close to that. And this comes across, it kind of goes up, then it goes down, then it meets here, probably like that. And then from here, I can come down like this, and I can work on this negative space to get the other part of this antennae correct. So I can just follow that. I have that. So this is part of its little segment of its little antennae here. Right. This is how I begin to draw all the different parts of this beetle. Okay, I'm going to come over here for the top part of his leg. I jump all over the place because I don't believe in just drawing like from left to right or top to bottom. I like to jump around a little bit. This is narrower than this part, so this gets narrow, and then it kind of comes straight down. If I use my pencil, I can line it up and I can see it kind of comes straight down, doesn't it? So I can drop a line pretty well straight down. This is where that segment ends, so I can draw a line across, and I'm on the inside of the leg, so it tucks this way. And this one comes in like this, comes down. I'm not getting it perfect yet, and that's where that segment ends there. There's another segment here that ends right there, another segment that ends right there, another segment that ends right there. These, again, are our construction lines. And we're just trying to simplify the shapes that we're seeing, and we're working in reverse, which can be really hard, right? So do the best you can. This kind of angles out a little bit. Do the best you can. Don't get crazy detailed right away. I drew this a little bit too long. You can see it's a little off. I dropped it down too far, and I think it's because I made this one too long. So I can come in here, and I can fix it, and just make this a little shorter here. Make this one a little shorter here. This one goes a little shorter here, and then I have my little pokey thing here. Something like that. Doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. It has to be close. Then I'm going to look at this negative space here. It comes out, and then up, and then out like this, kind of drops down. This one comes down. It actually angles down if you look at it. The top of this part of this leg angles down. So I angle it down. I'm going to end it with a little rectangle. And then I'm going to go skinny here. And then it gets a little bit wider out here. And then this part ends. So I got to come back in here and tuck this in and that in. So it ends in the right spot. Then I have this construction line that I can bring across. And I'm going to go to the outside here. There's a little, kind of like a little column thing. Comes out and down. This one just goes kind of straight, and then I feel like it angles down here and up this way. I can always change, like look at my pencil and then change that angle here, and that looks pretty close. Close enough. Good enough for government work. And we go here. This comes out. The front, or the outside goes kind of straight, and then it dips down. And then again, we already have that construction line there. Comes around, and then we have that little pokey thing that comes out. So you're going to keep doing marks like this to finish up the whole outside of your beetle. The inside of the beetle, you're going to do something similar. You're going to figure out where things end. You can use some of the same construction lines you already have. And you're going to focus on flipping these construction lines I got to fix this. I made it a little bit too wide. It's easy to do. Something like that. And then this comes up like this. Comes down. Kind of looks like a little bit of an M. This might be a little too skinny, which is easy to do. Come up, and then this goes kind of roundy like that. And in here there's going to be a blob, and over here there's going to be a little blob. And you just keep looking for these things. And then when you know that it's correct, let's pretend I know this is correct, you start with your shading lines. This is gray, this is white, this is gray, and this is darker, right? So none of this should be left white. The only thing white on this, in this little box is the box around the outside of the beetle. So you're not actually going to leave anything else white. Everything else is going to have some sort of value attached to it. And you're just going to draw all the little things that you see. You can draw either the dark shapes or the light shapes. It's up to you. It's however you see better. And you're just going to finish up your little beetle by mirroring what you see from one side to the other. And then your shading lines I'm going to come down here for this part because I don't feel too bad about this. Your shading lines, you can just use what we call hatching or vertical lines to shade in the dark areas. Don't go super dark right away. You can go darker later and avoid some of those lighter areas for now. Okay? Let's pretend I'm ready because this needs to go light. I need to be able to make this look light, and I need to make this look dark, so I can come in and shade in a little bit heavier. Avoid those little areas that are supposed to be gray or light gray, and add in more shading lines throughout. Remember, you're going to be doing 3 of these little guys. So you're going to have plenty of practice. Hopefully by the end you have one that you're really proud of. These get shaded in as well. Because like I said, nothing is white on this beetle. It's black, it's dark gray, it's light gray. If you think that you didn't make a shape correct, you can draw with your eraser. And you're just going to keep drawing your beetle till you are done with one. And you move on to the next one, you move on to the next one. You need 3 finished works using lines of construction, lines of value or shading, lines that show shape, right? You need to focus on your negative space and your positive space. And you can use, as I have here, you can use geometric shapes to construct your organic shapes, because your beetle is organic. But I began by using more geometric shapes to simplify things, using straight lines where there are no straight lines. I use those straight lines to help me draw this out, and I feel like I didn't draw it fat enough, but it's okay. I can always fix it up a little bit, right? And then on my next one, I can do a better job. And on the next one, I can do an even better job. They don't have to, the first one doesn't have to be perfect, but they should get progressively better as you move on. So I hope that you have learned a little bit about how to look for things, for different elements and aspects of an image as you're drawing. And you're able to follow along and use this video. You can stop it, pause, rewind, watch again, whatever it is you need to do to be able to draw your beetles to the best of your ability. I'm not going to draw every single beetle with you. You can use what I've done here to help you draw these. And everything is done in the same way. I can look out here and determine how far away from the edge this needs to be, this antennae, and kind of draw that shape and meet where I am so that I can get it as close as possible to what I have here. And then looking at this negative space here, I can use all this information to draw this white shape right, to create where this leg needs to go behind this antennae and come up at an angle. Feel like this is too fat. It needs to go at a little bit of an angle, knowing again where things end. So this little segment here goes into this little segment here, which goes into this little segment here, which goes into this little guy here, which is not quite in the right spot, but I can drop all this down with using my eraser and just kind of changing things a little. I feel like my antennae is too far out, so I just come in, change that angle just a little bit, take my eraser to it so I can drop all this down. It's not a big deal. You don't have to be perfect. I'm not perfect. I don't expect perfection. I expect you guys to use your learning to get better at drawing. Okay? So that's your job today, or with this worksheet. That is your job for however long I guess it takes you to get it right. If you need help, see me. But your job is to do the best you can at drawing what you see and flipping it and finishing each of your 3 beetles. Good luck. Have fun.